Good morning, guys. Welcome back to my channel. I am doing some animal chores today on our property. I figured I'd do a little video. It's a little bit different. It's not TTC related, but I do want to incorporate more non-TTC stuff into my channel as well. So while I'm doing the animal chores right now, we'll talk a little bit about why we decided that we wanted to move out of Florida. So there's lots of topics to go through. I'm going to try to stay on track with the main topics that I wanted to hit. So I did make some notes so that I don't forget and don't get too off the topic of the video. But while I'm doing the animal chores, I'll get started and then I'll sit down and finish talking with you guys. Alright, I have some food for the turkeys here. We actually don't have as many animals as what we used to. If you follow our farm channel, you'll know that we've been downsizing a lot on our animals. So we just have a couple birds left up here in the front yard, and my son, he feeds the pigs and the sheep that we have in the back. So I'll start with how we ended up in Florida in the first place. I don't know if you guys know the backstory of how I live in Florida. I actually was raised in New Jersey up until like the very last month of middle school. We moved to Florida. My parents moved us to Florida. They bought a house here. I remember it was the last month because when we got here, I was actually instructed to start like the FCAT or something like that, the testing that they do at the end of the year. So I entered the very last year of middle school and had to do those testings, and then after those testings, middle school was over and it was right to high school. So that was a challenge in itself. I had to leave all my friends. I was raised in New Jersey, left all my friends in New Jersey, had to start brand new here in Florida in high school, which is one of the toughest like grade levels to start a whole new school with no friends. So in high school, I actually met my husband sophomore year. So we had a class together. And the reason we moved to Florida in the first place was because my grandmother was living here. Her health was declining. My grandmother lived with my aunt at the time, and she wasn't doing all that great. They didn't give her, I guess, a long estimated life left, and my mom wanted to spend her last days with her, so she found a property here in Florida, fell in love with it, and we moved. And unfortunately, my grandma passed away not too long after that, but still we remained here. We weren't going to move again. They had just bought this property, but we were able to spend her last few months. I don't even remember how long it was after we moved here to when she passed away. I believe she passed away when I was a freshman in high school, so it happened pretty quick after we moved here. So luckily we were able to spend our last times with her, where if we would have stayed in New Jersey, we would not have had those last moments with her. So I ended up meeting my husband sophomore year. We had a class together. I don't even know how it happened, but after that we started dating, and eventually, well, we spent the rest of high school together, and then we went to college together. Towards the end of college, I was doing my associate's degree in baking and pastry. 9 times out of 10, I do not recommend culinary school either. I feel like it's not worth the money. You don't really learn. You learn more by experience than actually going to a culinary school. But anyway, we stayed together through college. Towards the end of me getting my associate's degree in college, I ended up pregnant with my son, Jaden. And then after that, we had my son, and we rented together. We rented an apartment together, and then after that, we went on to rent 2 different houses before we ended up on this property. This is the first house that we purchased here in Florida. So, and then of course we had our daughter and all of that. You guys already know, after my daughter, I got my tubes tied because we thought we were done having kids. But that is besides the story. You guys have heard our TTC journey already. So that is how we ended up here in Florida. We've moved into this house in 2016, and everything pretty much that you see here we've put here, because when we bought this property it was completely blank. There was no like animal enclosures, there was no pens, there was none of this over here where we keep the turkeys, and the gardens weren't here. So everything we've put in, we've done the gardening, we've raised all types of animals here. But for some reason, we just do not feel fulfilled. We bought this property with the purpose of growing our own food, raising our own animals, meat and eggs. But even though we've been doing all that, we just don't feel like this state is our forever home. Even shortly after buying this house, it's an amazing house, 5 acres of property, and it's almost all cleared out. And it has everything that we need. It has the space for the animals and all of that. We just don't feel like it is our forever home. We felt like that literally the first year we bought the property, but we just went along with it. I mean, we just bought a house. We have to make it work for what we want. So that's what we did. We've raised all kinds of animals here, sheep, pigs. We used to have mini ponies, but we had to get rid of those. We've raised cows, all types of chickens. We've done the meat chickens for our customers, still doing that. We've grown all kinds of food. We've planted fruit trees, failed with our first planting of fruit trees, but have most recently started again planting, and they all have been doing good. So we've definitely learned a lot along the way, but at the end of the day, we just don't feel like this is our forever home, and not even our forever state. Now, I miss, for sure, a big factor is all the seasons. I miss the seasonal changes, but I don't see myself moving back to New Jersey either. That's definitely not a state that I want to go back to, just because it's so expensive, and I just don't see myself going back there. But we have been looking into more northern states, especially like in the New England area. Some of you guys already know what state we're looking into, because I talk to you aside from like YouTube. We talk on Instagram and stuff, but I'm still gonna keep the state that we're planning on moving into a secret until we visit. We want to visit at least once or twice before making any final decisions, and we haven't actually visited this state yet in person, so I definitely want to do that just to see how it feels, if it feels right. So that's what we're looking into, a state that has all the season, because I miss that. Here in Florida, you do not get all the seasons, and I love seeing the weather changes and the fall colors finished by the snow. I haven't lived an adulthood yet in snow, but I was raised in New Jersey, so I've definitely had lots of snow experience. And we went to Tennessee for one Christmas with the kids because we wanted them to see snow, and that was not too long ago, and we just loved it. Tennessee is not where we're moving to. That's another one I wouldn't want to live in. It's beautiful to visit, especially during Christmas time, but just doesn't feel like our state. And so that's where we want to go, somewhere that has all the seasons. Here in Florida, you just get pretty much summer. Like now in the fall time, it is still pretty warm. You still have all the bugs and mosquitoes, and it makes, like for us, it makes farming very difficult. Florida is tough for farming, tough for growing food. You need to spend years and years amending your soil because we pretty much have sand. And we've grown lots of food, but it has taken so much work. It has taken us bringing in so much dirt in order to grow those foods. It's tough for animals too. They're more prone to parasites. There's so many bugs and worms that could get into your animals. And since Florida does not have an actual winter time where it snows and all these animals go into the dormant stage, these like bugs and parasites are just always ongoing. So it's hard to raise the animals. Especially like when it comes to sheep, or if you have horses or pigs, you have to constantly be deworming them and giving them medication to kill off those bugs, and it's just an ongoing cycle. Same with plants. The pests that attack your plants, there's just never a break in that. It's just always happening year round. So aside from the sandy soil, farming is tough when it comes to animals and crops. And then in the winter, We have pretty mild winters, so you can grow things all year round. That is a plus for Florida. But the bad thing is that we do sometimes very randomly get like a frost night or two during the winter time. Usually happens when it's getting closer to spring, and that wipes out all of your garden, kills everything. If you had papaya and banana trees going, those are gone and done for. The winter veggies survive perfectly fine, but anything else like tomatoes and peppers is pretty much a loss. So farmers, not just like homesteaders like me, but farmers in general struggle from that. Like peach orchards where their flowers are just blooming on the peach trees, or the oranges and stuff, and blueberries too, they suffer as well, because we get those like very late winter frosts that if you're not protecting your plants or your crops, you're pretty much going to have a total loss for that year. It doesn't happen every single year. Sometimes we have pretty mild winters for a couple years in a row, but then one year it will be extra bad. So that's another bad thing about Florida, is that you don't get cold weather, but when you do, I mean, it does happen and it does kill your crops just like it would up north. Now up north, of course, you got all winter time, all that snowy season where you can't really grow anything at all. So that is the downside of that. But I feel like up north you get better soil in other states, especially the state that we're looking into. It has one of the best soils for growing food. So I feel like it kind of evens itself out, because if we do really good during the growing season and we're able to save our food and preserve our foods for the winter time, that's really how I feel like God intended it for it to be. God didn't intend us to farm all year round and be tired and worked to the fullest, to the max all year. I feel like God intended for us to have a break in between. And here in Florida, farmers actually take a break during the summertime because it gets so hot and you can't get anything to grow. So it's kind of backwards, but I feel like I would enjoy a nice winter break, enjoying our foods that we were able to preserve, that we grew in the spring, summer, and fall time. So let me go get my little notebook where I wrote the notes down. So now you guys know how we ended up here, and I've been praying about it. That is the number one thing when we decided we wanted to move, was to pray about it, because we don't want to make any decisions that is not right for our family. So that is the number one thing. And I looked up on Google like how to know when God is telling you that it is time to move out of state, because that is such a huge decision. And you'll find checklists on there. I recommend you look them up. I found one checklist and I swear I checked everything off that checklist. I don't even remember the whole entire list, but one of the main things was just feeling unfulfilled where you're at now. And that is how we feel. I mean, we raise the animals, we have the land, we have the property. Our house is not bad. It's not the most like newest modern house, but it works for our family. And we have our business and we sell farm products and everything. But just something doesn't feel right. We don't feel fulfilled here. And sometimes, depending on the season, business is not good here in Florida either. Like in the summertime, it's hard to get people to come out to farmers markets because it's so hot out. In the winter time, everybody is just hyper focused on Christmas and Thanksgiving shopping. So people tend to forget about us little people that are trying to make a living with our small business. That might be the same issue in different states as well, but that's how we felt here in Florida. And then there was a whole rest of the list where I felt like I checked everything off, but with the main thing being just feeling unfulfilled where you're at and things just not always going that way. I feel like sometimes God lets us suffer in order to encourage us to move around and try something else. And we've tried it all here in Florida and things just don't always feel 100% correct. Another weather-related topic of why we want to get out of Florida is definitely the hurricanes and the storms. I do understand that in other states there is other struggles like winter storms, snowstorms, blizzards, and they probably have tornadoes and stuff too. But Here in Florida, it seems like hurricanes are becoming way more common, a little too common for my comfort. The flooding, I've noticed it in our own property all the way in the back. We have an area of water and it just never dries up. And if you look back at aerial images of our property centuries ago, that area in the back used to be dry, and now it is wet and has never dried in the years that we've been here. We've been here, I think, about 7 years now. So that is concerning to me, and I'm seeing it happen all over Florida. Flooding is becoming an issue, and the flooding never seems to be going down. If you notice in the beaches as well, I'm sure you've seen it in the news. The beaches, the shorelines are getting washed out, and they're just never recovering from that because it's just storm after storm. So that is one thing. The storms, I really, like last time we had a hurricane, I told my husband I wanted to be out of here before the next hurricane. Luckily, we haven't had damage to our house in the couple of hurricanes that we have went through since we lived here, but it's just scary. Like every experience we have with a storm here, it's scary. And then we have to have the stress of the animals, putting them all away, and all of that madness. It's just not fun. The state we are looking into has literally not had a hurricane since 2007. So I think that is amazing. And of course it can happen. It's close enough to the shoreline for it to happen. And there's always problems with other type of storms, not hurricane related. But in Florida, it's like you're guaranteed to have hurricanes every couple years, if not even more often. So that is another point. In Florida, it's very cheap to live, but also as a business owner, that kind of hinders our success because people are on limited incomes. There's a lot of elderly people here, which I've had some really awesome elderly seniors that support us month after month, but a lot of people are on fixed incomes and they just cannot afford our products. So that kind of sucks. Florida is really good for tourism, and like our type of products that we sell, like at local farmers markets, and our farm products like chickens and eggs, it's not really for tourists. Tourists are looking for more attractions and stuff like that. And our goals for farming have kind of turned around. Our vision for farming has kind of took a 360 turn. At one point in my life, I wanted to have like a bigger farm right here in Florida as well. I'm glad we did not go through with this plan, but we wanted to buy a bigger property so that we can have more of the open farm days and have an actual farm store on our property so that people could come and shop, and we could just be open like set hours during the week. But after a while, I figured out that's not really something we want. We are seeking like privacy and having just a little hidden farm in the middle of nowhere, away from civilization, and having a farm like that so public and so open, it's not something that I think we would be happy in the long term, especially as we get older. We're just seeking more privacy and just more being at peace with nature rather than having all of the traffic coming in and out of our farm. So I think here in Florida, the farms that do succeed are more of those who are focused on having the attractions for families to come. And that's not something we want to do. It's something we have enjoyed because we've had lots of farm days here on our property, and we've enjoyed meeting all the people, seeing all the kids enjoying the animals, but it's not something I'd want to do like full-time and long-term and have it grow to the point where we have lots of traffic coming in all of the time. So with that said, smaller, more private farms have a harder time marketing their products because we have to actually go out there and sell our products directly to the customers, or go out to like festivals and markets and advertise ourselves, or online sales as well. Here in Florida, land is hard to find. In 2021, we were looking for property with more land, and they are very, very slim pickings and very, very expensive. You can't find anything under $500,000 for the type of land that we were looking for. And the state we are looking into has very affordable land and lots of land available. The only bad thing is that there's not a lot of housing available. It's a very rural state and very underdeveloped, so there's not a lot of options. But I feel like if it's meant to be, God's gonna make it happen, as I always say. So something will work out. I know this house, as soon as we list it, it's gonna sell, and it's gonna sell fast because there's not that many options available to people here, especially with acreage. So I don't think that's gonna be a problem. We might have a little bit of a problem finding something in the new state that's within our budget, but we'll see what happens. And I feel like at the end we'd be happier in the state, in the other state, than compared to here. We've lived here for 7 years already and we just do not feel happy. We also live in a manufactured home, which, like I said, we've spent lots of hurricanes in this home and nothing, absolutely nothing, not even roof damage has happened. So manufactured homes are built to code so that they are able to withstand like the storms and stuff. But I feel like for our forever home, we want an actual built home. We'd feel much safer in it, and we wouldn't feel like if a big giant storm is coming, we have to go to a shelter. That happened 1 year, and that was so stressful, having to go to a shelter, leaving all the animals behind and not knowing if they were okay. I would much rather be able to feel safe in my home, have like a nice solid built home that we can hunker down in case of storms and still be here with our animals instead of having to leave them and go to a shelter. Here in Florida, there is so much things to do, but it seems like everything costs money. The state we're looking into is the opposite. There's not that much entertainment, not much things to do, but I feel like our lifestyle doesn't really require us needing all the things, all the attractions, the amusement parks. Even here in Florida, there's lots of beautiful things to do that's not Disney related or SeaWorld related, but everything costs money. Even like the natural parks, like they have a lot of beautiful springs. Some of them are cheap to get into, like $5-7 per car. But then the really beautiful ones, I feel like Florida is taking advantage and charging people up to $11 per person to visit these natural resources that Florida has to offer. And the places are beautiful and they're so much fun to swim in, and it doesn't always have to be the beach. But everything is just so expensive in general. All the tourist attractions are expensive. Everything costs money. So, and we don't visit enough. Like, our family doesn't go to the beach enough that we'd feel sad about leaving a state where the beach is literally 40 minutes away. And we definitely don't go to the amusement parks and stuff enough to even factor that in when deciding to move out of here. We can always come back for vacation and to visit our family that's here, but I don't think we would miss that part too much. Florida is also becoming more and more overcrowded. It's always been pretty crowded and people are always moving here, but recently it's just becoming worse in my eyes. They're knocking down more areas for more housing and more apartments, and I just don't like that. The state that we're looking into is actually like against all of that and building up the land, and they're all about preserving the land, preserving the properties, and that's how I feel. I don't like how just how overpopulated Florida is becoming, especially during the recent years. I haven't lived here long enough to really see those changes coming into play, but other people definitely have noticed it, and I've noticed it a little bit just in the short time being here. And I want to live somewhere where it's full of nature and less people. It's funny that the state that we are looking into moving to actually is the second least populated state in the United States. So that seems like a perfect place for us, and I can't wait to be able to visit in person and just see if it truly feels right or if it's just stuff that we are seeing online and through the pictures, because really the pictures are just breathtaking how beautiful they look. And the properties we've trying to consistently check, like on realtor.com and Zillow and stuff, and check out the properties being listed, and it just looks really nice, like a really nice place to live in and farm. Now, if you don't follow our farm channel, it's called Our Vision Farm. I'm going to do a second video on there and it's going to be kind of related to this video, but it's going to be more about how we picked the state that we want to live in. Now, we're not 100% sure if this is our state, but literally I'm like 99% sure, so I'm pretty close enough. All that's left is us actually visiting in person and seeing how it feels. But everything else that I've researched about this new state has literally checked off all of our lists. It's not completely perfect, but it's a very top contender. So I'm going to do a video on that channel on how we decided, because when we found out that we wanted to move, we had no clue where to even begin in searching and narrowing down all our options for what states we can live in. But eventually we figured our way, and I wanted to share how we did that and what are the main topics and like the main things that we were looking for in the new state that Florida does not have to offer for us. So definitely check that out. I'll probably post that video within the next couple days on our farm channel, so if you're interested in that. But this video specifically was more about why we decided we wanted to move out of Florida. So I feel like I've ran through all of those. The reasons why we wanted to move out of Florida, I've listed all of those, but the reasons that we think another state would be better, number one would be better soil. Especially like all the southern states have very sandy soil. Here in Florida, I think is the sandiest one of all. So it takes, like I said, years to amend the soil and be able to grow anything. And I think once we move, the soil quality is just going to be so much better that we can just get into right away planting without having to do too much work. The winter in other states does kill off the bugs and kills off the parasites, so it's kind of like it gives a break to the land and it gives a break to the garden areas for things to die off before everything starts getting high activity again in the spring and summer. But then again, you have a shorter growing season, and that's just something we'd have to get adjusted to. Let me see. All the seasons is another main topic I've already mentioned. I feel like for my happiness and my soul, I need the seasonal changes, because that is just something I don't like about Florida. And it seems so silly to want to move out of a state just because of that, but I feel like you need it, especially for somebody that spends so much time outdoors. I just don't know how people can live here the rest of their lives. I think the people that just absolutely love Florida and can't imagine living anywhere else, they just honestly don't spend enough time outside, because sometimes it just gets miserable when you're out here getting chewed up by mosquitoes. You're trying to get some garden work done, it's so hot, you automatically get a migraine and dehydrated. Between the heat and the mosquitoes, like, I'm just crazy to leave out of Florida. And I know other states have heat and mosquitoes too, but at least you get to look forward to a break from it all in the fall and the winter time, where here it's just constant all year round. And I spend way too much time outside to know that I know specifically that I do not see myself living here for the rest of my life. It just makes gardening and raising animals all the harder, and I'm just ready for a break from that part. Other states, especially up north, have higher costs of living, but at the same time, the jobs pay more. And the state we're looking into, my husband would already have a job. The job that he started here in Florida has the same company in the state that we're looking into. So fingers crossed, if it all works out that way, he can just transfer. So he already has a job, probably going to pay a lot more per hour than what he's getting paid here in Florida. So I think it'll even out the differences in the higher cost of living. Plus, we have to think about, we are moving and we're still going to be raising our own meat and trying to grow as much of our own food as possible. So our cost of living will actually be a little bit less than other people's costs of living. The areas we're looking into, just like here where we live, we're on well water, so we don't have a water bill. That kind of helps with the cost of living, I imagine, because if you live more in the city, you're paying for electricity and water, and we have the benefit of not having to pay for water, especially when you have animals, livestock, and gardens. You go through a lot of water, so well water is definitely a must, because if you're paying the city for all your water, that's gonna definitely put up your cost of living. I also want to move to a place with snow while the kids are still a little bit young and they can enjoy and have their playtime in the snow. Like, I wouldn't want to move years and years later, because then the snow would just be for us. It wouldn't be so much for the kids anymore. They'd be grown, they wouldn't be interested in playing. So I'd like them to enjoy the last couple years of childhood that they have playing in the snow and having those memories to have like when they grow up. So just like I have those memories of playing in the snow when I was little, and if we stay here in Florida, we will definitely miss out on that. All in all, we are seeking for just a quiet place, a peaceful place, and somewhere that is more likely to stay like that, because the way the world is going, everybody is just knocking down trees to build more housing, and everything's getting so overly crowded. And I just want to live in a place that I know we're going to have our piece of land, our piece of private property, and we're not going to be bothered with the world, and we'll continue doing what we're doing, raising our kids on a farm and having our farm, our small business. And that's just a lifestyle we see for ourselves. And also being self-employed, that would be top goals to achieve. Again, is being completely self-employed. That way we don't have to worry about income from other jobs and having to find jobs other ways than just relying on ourselves and all the products that we make and all of the things that we raise and grow on our property. Living off the land as much as possible has always been the #1 goal. So making as many products as we can from our homegrown items, whether it's fruit trees, vegetables, milk from the animals, eggs from the animals, or meat from the animals. All of that kind of working in its own little ecosystem, and that we can profit from and make an income and be able to pay all our bills with those products. So we are definitely moving out of Florida. We definitely have a #1 state in mind. All that's left is us visiting that state at least once or twice, most likely twice, before we make any decisions. And then from there, we will just be listing this house and hoping that we find something literally around the same time, so we can get that done and over with and move on and start a whole new life in a new state. We're very excited and just can't wait. But we see it happening, and we see it happening so fast. It's just amazing how God works. Like, how did we go from not having a clue where we're going to move to knowing where we're going to move? And everything has just been working out perfectly. Downsizing our animals on the farm, they've been going very fast. I thought they were going to be so much harder to get rid of. And other than that, everything's going great with my husband's new job. So we're catching up on our bills and all the late bills that we had when we were trying to just be self-employed. And then soon we'll be able to start saving money. And I think right now the market's at a perfect time where if we list our house, we'd be able to sell it pretty fast and be able to pay what we have left on the mortgage and possibly buy another house. That is our goal to, I don't know, we've been talking about it going back and forth. Our main goal is to be able to pay off this house and then have leftovers that we can buy something else, maybe something that may need a little bit of work, but we definitely want to find something with property. We have 5 acres now. Not all 5 acres are usable. We have about 1 acre of wetlands all the way in the back. So if we found anything with like 5 acres of all usable dry land, I feel like that actually feel like an upgrade than what we have now. Or maybe even something with more land would be nice as well. I'd like to have more land to be able to pass down to my family once we grow old, and pass down to one of our kids if they want it. But so we're not looking for any specific type of acreage, just minimum of 5 acres or more. And if we can purchase something like that with a house and pay it off in cash, you know how amazing that would be to know that we don't have a mortgage to pay every month. Plus, that would also help with the problem of the higher cost of living. If we don't have a mortgage to pay, we do still have taxes to worry about, and we do still have home insurance to worry about. But if we don't have a mortgage on top of all of those, then that will even itself out, and we won't have such a higher cost of living to adjust to. So that would be amazing if we can do that. If we can sell this house and have profits left over to purchase another house in cash, even if it means that it needs a lot of work. I definitely have to keep that in mind. We're not going to find a move-in ready house that's beautiful on property. I mean, my God is a great God, and he could be working that out for us already, but I'm also trying to be more realistic and reasonable, knowing that we might have to find something that's not as pretty, and we're gonna have to make some ourselves. So I hope that covered of why we wanted to move out of Florida and why we are going to go through with the plan. Definitely, we're very excited. Florida is not that bad really, but it's just not right for us, and when you know that, you just know that, and not everything will line up correctly, and you will feel just unfulfilled. That is the main feeling that I have towards even remotely thinking about living here forever, is just that I would feel unfulfilled. And so will my husband. My husband grew up in Florida. He was born and raised here, and he wants to get out too. He doesn't, some people are just born and raised here and stay here for generations and generations. That's just not him either. He's wanted to move for quite a bit. He's wanted to move out of Florida for longer than I have. It just took me a little bit longer to accept that we'll be moving away from family and all of that. But I think we're ready. Our great grandmother that passed away not that long ago, she was one of the main reasons why we stayed in Florida, because we wanted to move a couple years ago, but we just couldn't imagine us moving away from her, because she just loved our kids so much, and I wouldn't want to break her heart like that. But she is gone now, and she's resting in peace, and I feel like now is the right time. We were really just sticking around here because of her, but now that she is gone, I feel more comfortable with the decision to leave. Everybody who we have told that we wanted to go is just like, yeah, go for it. Nobody's really giving us a hard time. Of course, we're gonna miss our family, but we'll still see them. We can still get together for holidays. They're definitely planning on traveling up to us. My mom actually bought a camper recently, so she plans on doing lots of traveling and camping, and we're gonna definitely have the perfect state for that, where we're planning on moving. And I can also send the kids down for the summer. I could see us doing that a couple times, especially since we're homeschooling. There's not really no trouble with sending them at any point that we want, and taking a little break, sending them down to spend time with family for the summer while we continue taking care of our farm and our things up north. So that is what we have to look forward to. Hope that kind of cleared the list of reasons why we wanted to get out of Florida and why we were looking into more up northern states. We've looked all over, we compared everything, but the state we're looking into is definitely in the New England area. So just to give you an idea of where we plan on moving, but once we actually visit in person, I'll definitely do like a vlog and stuff on that, and once we feel 100% that is our state, we'll be able to share it with you guys. And that is it for this video. Look forward to the video on Our Vision Farm. That is where I kind of run through the list and tell you guys how we actually decided on this specific state. When you have so many options available and open to you, how we decided and pinpointed this state is the state that we want to look into moving to. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am going to get inside and get some homeschooling done with the kids, but I'll see you guys in the next one very soon.